Blessings to all, and welcome to another episode of Elevate the Mic. And I'm your host, Max Mupese. Today we have a hip hop artist who goes by the name of CB Mac, and he's going to talk about his story. He's going to talk about his passions, and he's also going to talk about what he's currently working on. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm
Great.
good. Yeah,
Nice
it's
to
good to
see
be
you.
here. This is a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how did you get the surprise? Like, how did you feel when you got the surprise? Actually.
I told him it was the timing couldn't have been better. I've been on and off with projects because of life gets in the way sometimes.
Right.
But I just recently finished a song that I've been working on for a couple of months, and then he hit me up to come do the show, and I thought this is perfect timing because not only am I going to start promoting the song, getting it out there, I want to get the ball rolling for other projects, and this was something that I wasn't anticipating, but I definitely welcomed. So yeah, no, I was definitely excited.
That's
I
good.
had to make it work.
Great.
Yeah.
Speaking of songs, I like your song Beats and Cuts.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I really like it. It's it's organic. You could tell that you're rapping from an honest place.
yeah.
And what would you say is your current style? How would you describe your style as an artist?
I mean, I like a lot of different types of hip hop artists, and I would say my favorite that I've listened to for a while and really respected his style, just the way it was done, so smooth, is Method Man. He has this smoothness to his rhyme schemes that I just like. As soon as I hear him rapping, I get into I feel the rhythm. So I took from that and incorporated my own style, but I also pulled from other artists. There's one from Sweatshop Union, which is a collective based out of BC. One of the guys on there is named aka Tree Frog, but he goes by Conscience. And he had this style as well, which Nas does as well. Whereas the bars aren't so much structured evenly as they are blended together. And same that Biggie did, where he would jump from rhyme schemes and he would start and stop at places where you weren't expecting, but it sounded good. So I like to combine all these styles, and then there's also the content. I gravitated towards a lot of artists that weren't as straightforward. The straightforward delivery of the lyrics was cool. That's how I started. That's how I got into the whole wordplay and punchlines and all that stuff. But then when I started gravitating towards artists like Atmosphere, Slug, especially as one of the abstract artists that I listen to, Idea, that style, I blended that as well. So I would say right now, from my latest writings, is a combination of the smoothness with the rhyme scheme of Method Man, I would say non-straightforward, maybe not so much abstract, but the abstract approach of Slug or from Atmosphere.
Right.
And then I just put my own spin on it. I like to do my own thing, and some of the lines people tell me that they don't understand, and I'm like, that's cool, man. It's more like a personal line there.
Right.
But the delivery is always, I try to make it as impeccable as I can. So yeah, that would sum up the combination of my style, I think.
Okay.
Currently.
I get versatility. The way you're explaining it, it's versatile. It's like
Absolutely, yeah.
you could listen. When you said Method Man, I was thinking when you're in the boxing gym, you could listen to Method Man. Like you're in a car, you could listen to Method Man.
Yeah.
So it's like there's this versatility aspect.
Yes, yeah, I do like to stay versatile, and even with my, I would say, beat choices as I was continuing to create would vary here and there, vary from old school to sometimes it would be trap, sometimes it would just be different styles. Whatever would capture me or pull an emotion, it would just instantly spark some lyrics and I would write, but it wouldn't be the same framework of rhyme schemes because a certain style wouldn't fit with that type of beat, so it would just sound off. It just wouldn't mesh well. So yeah, versatility is definitely part of my approach to writing music. Yeah.
Got it. And could you tell us why'd you call yourself CB Mac, and what made you fall in love with hip hop?
Okay, well, CB Mac originally, as I started writing when I was about 16, and it was around the time that 8 Mile came out. So it was all about the battle raps.
Backpack.
And, yeah, it was all about that. So we were in economics class, passing notes back and forth and just like writing a diss. You know, you write another one, another bar back and forth, and we weren't paying attention.
Freestyle battling on paper.
Basically, which graduated to the locker room where the gym was, where
Right.
we'd get up on the bench and everyone would crowd around. And we'd just spit freestyle battles. Like we weren't the best, but that's what we were into.
Right.
And then once I started getting more into that, and I started getting online with pre-written battles, I needed a name for myself. So my name is Christopher McIntyre, which it's funny I'm saying this because I do not like being called Christopher. That's when my mom, when I was in trouble, if I heard my full name, it's like, I'm in trouble. So that's my full name. So originally I went by C-Mac, but it was so generic, and I've heard of E-Mac and B-Mac and just all the same stuff. So as time went on, I realized that a lot of artists just take their name and either flip it, just find some kind of way to manipulate their name
Right.
in a way that sounds interesting, but also portrays their style, their experiences, or whatever it is. And I graduated from CMAC. Then I went to MC, just M.C. And that was an abbreviation for Make Connections, which I liked, but it still didn't really define my style. And then I worked with another artist who went by Zen Disciple, and then I was going by MC Able, because I was able to do so many different styles and I was versatile.
Versatile, right.
But didn't like the ring of it either. So I kept going through these names, kept making music, and then finally, I think what sparked it is when I just looked at Eminem's name, Marshall Mathers, M and M, and I was like, it's so simple yet so clever. So I just went with CB Mac because I liked the way it ran. My middle name is Brandon, so I just went CB Mac, and I kept using it. I liked the way it was, the ring it had to it. And when I would write songs and I'd refer to myself,
Right.
I'm a syllable guy, so I like the syllable bounce of it, CB Mac, and it just added some flair to the rhyme scheme. So I was like, let me just stick with this for a bit. It stuck, and people enjoyed it, and it just sounded right. It felt right. So I was like, yeah, CB Mac. Let's not complicate
with
things.
that.
Let's stick with this. Yeah.
Okay.
How I fell in love with hip hop was once I really started getting into the writing and discovering a whole bunch of different types of artists and how they express themselves. I started realizing that I wasn't necessarily confined to do a certain type of hip hop.
Right.
And I also realized that it is just another art form, but it's also a way to express yourself. And the best way that I can express myself is being honest.
Right.
And through the honesty and almost self-reflecting, a lot of the songs that I write are either events I've gone through, people I know personally, events they've gone through. And the art that comes from that is the style of words or wordplay that's used to describe these stories.
Right.
So when I fell in love with it is actually when I had wrote my first complete song, you know, made the beats, mixed it, did all this stuff and recorded it, listened to it, and it's almost like, that's me? Like, that's cool. Because like,
pat yourself on the back right there.
It was a pat on the back, but it was also cool to see myself open up to myself. Almost like I was incapable of talking about serious subjects, or I would just, you know, growing up being the stoic man, you push those emotions down, you push it down, you don't talk about it, and this and that. But writing allowed me to do that, but in a cool way, a smooth way, capture people's attention. But at the same time, say I would make a song and a year would go by, I'd go back in my my writing pad, and I'd be looking over old lyrics, and certain lyrics would hit me with a perspective that I needed now.
Okay.
Which I thought was
therapeutic.
very profound, because it's almost like I was writing to my future self. So when I wrote it, it sounded cool, but it didn't impact me yet until I got to a point where those words now impacted me and helped me make a better decision. So I think that's when I really fell in love with hip hop and just the style of art, of expression, and just I wanted to go all in. I want to do this. Like, this is
That's
fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how did your family feel about that, or
They were
your peers?
supportive. No, everyone, like, in the beginning, obviously anything you start, you're gonna go through ups and downs, and you're gonna go through times where, like, do I really want to do this? Uncertainty. But my family was definitely supportive from the get go. When I first started making beats on Fruity Loops, and they were
Wow.
they were the worst. They were the worst.
Jeez.
I thought I was so impressed. What happened was I was in my uncle's basement because he had a computer at the time. I did. So I would go over, ask if I could download Fruity Loops. I'd download it. I'd make the beat and everything. I'd connect it to the speakers to go upstairs.
Right.
I'd run upstairs like, okay, guys, check this out. Press play. And I was into it, and they would just listen to it. I'm like, oh, that's really good. It's really good. So thank you for the support. You know, I'm going to keep doing this. But then when I went back, say years later, listen to the beats, I was like, wow, this is actually pretty garbage. but I appreciate the support they gave me because it just made me better. Because it let me keep that spark of creativity that I had gotten from it.
Right.
And then it just got better and better. New programs, new styles. I found myself listening to the song in its entirety. Like, to me, Dre is he's a big name. Obviously, everyone knows who Dr. Dre is.
Dr. Dre, right.
But his method of creating a song, just like Timbaland, just like anyone else who has a big name,
Right.
they understand not just the fundamentals, but it's also something else. It's rather than in the moment, here's a certain loop that I created that sounds dope. Okay, cool. But from beginning to end, they can conceptualize the song. They can see it or hear it rather in their head. But they have a knack for understanding what needs to be adjusted and what needs to be done in order for this to be, at the very least, well received. So listening to a whole bunch of different types of artists and their approach, I started to understand the landscape better, and I started to understand the art form better, which is why I delved into more beat making. Just because I love playing piano. I picked up the guitar, I love playing the guitar, and I started understanding music more and started understanding what I could do and what was possible. And it was just a matter of learning the basics, and then from there, just mess around with it. It's art like anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was self-taught when you say playing the piano. Did you go to school for that, or
no? It was all self-taught. And it wasn't as uphill as you would think it was. I did find at one point, I can't remember his name, but this teacher at a music school, a prominent music school in the States, actually, he uploaded all his classes onto YouTube.
Berkeley? You talking about Berkeley?
No, it wasn't Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
It was a different school. I can't remember which though, but it's when I was learning music theory, and he just uploaded his courses. It was just the whiteboard, camera was there, and he taught the whole class for free.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was like, this
Thank
can't be
God
serious.
for the internet, man.
So I was amazed. So I took advantage, and that's where I did most of my music theory studying, though it's been a while now. But every time I pick up an instrument, it clicks again, and I understand. So a lot of my stuff is self-taught, and it's usually, I would say, out of necessity. Whereas when I wanted to have a guitar element to my music, I gotta learn how to play guitar. I'm not gonna get someone else to do it. I don't want to find an electronic loop. I want to learn how to do it.
Right.
So I did, and I made a bunch of songs that are not released, and they probably won't be released.
Right.
But I learned how to play guitar, and then I went to piano. Piano is, if anyone gets a chance to play piano, please do it, because especially as an artist, for one, the notes are laid out right in front of you. So if you need to practice your vocals for pitch and octave and things like that, it's right there. Aside from that, I would say, personally, if I had started with piano and then graduated to guitar,
Right.
the process probably would have been a lot easier. Where I find guitar, for me anyways, was a little more complicated with the frets and the way the notes are positioned. But all in all, every time I needed to do something musically and didn't know how, I searched for ways to figure it out.
Okay. Self-taught.
Yeah, I had
That's
to.
it.
It's
That's interesting. I mean, what I get from what you're telling me is that not only was it self-taught, I also get that you have the ability to teach people. Have you ever thought about becoming an educator at one point, or even?
I haven't thought about becoming an educator. In those areas, no, because I don't formally have any teaching. So I feel like it would lead them astray. I'd probably miss some points. I could most likely do that for writing, definitely. And maybe the process of creating songs, like song creation. And I think that's probably one path I'm going to take, and I'm probably going to start with my son. My son he has a wonderful voice. He sings just like his dad, get in the shower, pours his heart out, singing Boy with Uke, and was it Louis Capaldi?
Okay.
This little 8-year-old can sing his heart out. And we just got a keyboard for him and his sister to play with. I taught him Twinkle Twinkle Little Star just to start off.
Right.
He picked it up right away, and now he's just jamming on the piano. So I feel like if I am going to go that route, I'm going to start with him and flesh a few things out and then possibly expand it. But for now, I think teaching is out of my realm right now, just because I'm not comfortable doing it without having enough
material, you talking?
Yeah, material and proper training. Like I said, I would rather get them started with the basics, but it's not like I know everything. I skipped a lot of steps along the way to get things done musically that I need to get done. So yeah, I would still encourage people to, if they are curious about anything musically, just do it. If you want to learn how to mix, go online and talk with people. It's not as big a monster as some people make it out to be. Anything. It's just the time, and if you put in the effort, everything is easy.
That's it. That's a good point. You just aligns with the stars. Yeah. Just putting in the effort.
That's it.
What is currently inspiring you to make music these days?
Honestly, world events. A lot of world events, and I think it's just an accumulation of things. The overall, I guess, mood or vibe that is in the world has inspired a lot of not just thoughts and ideas, but of actions to take. I find inspiration usually from the little things, but now I'm pulling from the macro, the bigger things.
Right.
And they're inspiring bigger songs. And it's been positive, but also held me back because I'm somewhat of a perfectionist as well. Okay. So when I want to make a big song, something I find personally is important and requires, a lot of the effort to be put in. It takes time. Like the song I just finally got completed with 2 other artists, a producer, Obnoxious Beats, and an artist from Ontario, Eulogy. It's been a couple of months, mostly my fault. I'll take the blame for that because of life events. We've had to delay. But this song was inspired so much by world events that I couldn't let it slide. So it was always in the back of my mind, and I'm excited to finally get it out. And a lot of other inspiration comes from other podcasts, other talk shows, other people just having a discussion about things.
So you're basically a sponge.
I would say so. I soak in a lot of stuff, a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different observations, because I like to get an idea from everyone's view. I don't want to just hone in on one view, because that is a lot of bias, and then you don't get to see the other side, and that kind of changes how you approach things. So it's the same thing with music. It's when I want to write about something, if it's a personal thing, easy, I'll just get it done. If it's something that's outside of me and is going to be requiring of my input, then I want to get a certain amount of observation and facts straight first, and then apply my personal touch to it.
Got it. Right. Speaking of personal touch, before before introducing yourself, I was hesitating to call you a hip hop artist.
Yeah.
The reason why is because I don't like to put people in a box, right? And
I
as
appreciate
artists,
that.
you know what I mean? As artists, artists do not like to be put in a box. I consider myself a creative as well, so
Mhm.
I don't like to be put in a box. However, what do you think about these titles and these quote unquote conscious rappers,
Mhm.
these conscious artists, trap rap? Do you think it's necessary to call those a certain way, or you think it should be as it is?
I think it's a good thing to have markers or differentiation between expressions of music,
Right.
just for sake of ease. If someone wants to listen to a high energy track, well, if a high energy track is what you're looking for, you're not going to go look for soul
Right.
or lo-fi. So it's good for that aspect to have different genres. But in the end, like you said, artists don't necessarily like to be caged in to have to produce or create something in a specific way. That's just the nature of an artist. We like being free to
yeah.
express ourselves however we find inspiration. And in this day and age, there's so many different genres that are subgenres of main genres.
Lost.
It's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
But I find it's also hard to say I'm this artist. I am a EDM, folk, hip hop, whatever. Like
Right.
that just confuses people. Like, okay, well, so what do you do? Well, I do all of that. But can you elaborate?
Right.
So I think it's good for separating the different genres for the consumer or the fan or the music lover. But I think it's also good that we have so many, because artists themselves like to touch upon everything,
Right.
and dive into different aspects of it to incorporate into their own art. I do personally enjoy old school hip hop, boom bap. That's just what I listened to as I was growing up. But as time went on, I did appreciate other forms of music, though I am not how do you say it? I don't mind saying that I'm very picky, and I'm not so much picky of the I'm not so much picky of the genre of music.
Right.
I'm picky of the way it's done.
Okay.
I can listen to a jazz song that when I listen to it, yeah, this is really good. I like the way it was done. But I can listen to another jazz song, like I don't like the way it's done.
Right.
It's just I don't know, something missing from it. The same thing with rock. I personally love like Metallica. The way they do their songs, like the rock songs, I love it. I love the tone of his voice. I like the progressions. I like the change ups. Then there's other rock bands that are, yeah, it's has a nice sound to it overall.
But it doesn't move you.
It doesn't move me. There's something missing from it. So I like all forms of music, but I like particularly the way it's done, and the way it's done differs from each genre, because each has I would say a template almost that you can start from, and that's something people are familiar with. And I remember listening to a rock song that didn't have a guitar solo, and I felt robbed. Because
I'm not going to that concert. I'm not, man.
I love
Shoot.
rock songs when there has to be a guitar solo. That guitar solo has to rip. And for me, there has to be some vocal solos, there has to be some screams, there has to be something. Because I find that is the essence for me of rock. And when it's not there, it's like, okay, this is not rock to me. This is a subgenre. This is something else, which is fine. But that's what I'm looking for when I listen to particular types of music. There's just a template, and then I want to see what you did with it. And if it's done well, yo, you got a fan.
Got it. You're sold. That's great. Could you tell us one thing that you're currently working on that you'd want the world to know at this very moment?
Well, it's been a while that I've been expressing to my peers that I want to produce an album, I want to make an album, and a few of them have been responding saying, well, I can't wait to see what you do with an album. How are you going to make an album? So that's coming along. Just it is coming along. It's about halfway done. It's taking longer because, again, for me, this is a big deal. It'll be my debut album. I've put out a few EPs, but this will be my debut album. And it's also interesting because it's a debut album when I'm sort of advanced in my career, in a sense. Not advanced in the same way that others would take it as, well, are you opening at the Bell Center and things like that? And no, I'm not that big, unfortunately. It would be nice, but I'm not. Yet. But this album is the type of songs that I have on there, again, comes down to personal journeys. And it's been titled Off-World. And the reason why it's called Off-World is because it feels like sometimes you have to just step away from things. You have to disconnect yourself from situations in order to be able to observe them and yourself in those situations to make any kind of significant decision.
Become an observer.
Yeah, I feel that that's a better approach than, especially when emotion is involved, than being in the situation, whatever it may be, trying to solve it or figure it out with all the emotions, being upended at the same time. So this album is basically a reflection of current personal journeys and past ones that I've gone through, just to kind of set the base for who CB Mac is, but also what I've gone through. And it's also going to help me reflect on it and hopefully help other people who have been in similar situations reflect on it and maybe get some new perspective that'll help them in their endeavors. So that is definitely the project I'm working on now. That is my focus. I do have a few singles here and there that I work on just for fun, because I still love doing it. But the focus is the album, and to get this out so I can basically set the starting point and then go from there, and it'll, I believe, allow me to branch out and start toying with new ideas. Maybe make an acoustic album, maybe make a whole other thing. Who knows? I have a bunch of ideas, but I want to start with the base. So yeah, the album Off-World, hopefully by the end of this year. But yeah, we'll see what life throws at me.
Hey, that's it. Hey, speaking of which, you said, you have a strength in writing, but you have multiple strengths. What would you write if you had a letter to write to the world? What would you write? What would be that letter, and what would you want to focus on at this very moment?
Patience. I think patience is definitely one thing I would allude to and try to help people understand that everything takes time. Whatever it is, be it positive or negative, everything takes time. And it feels like everything is getting rushed into. Even positive changes, I feel, are getting rushed into without really understanding the possible impact it could have. And from personal experience, like a lot of the mistakes I made when I was a kid and still growing into my adolescence and young adult was because of impatience and because of thinking that, yeah, I know what's best without having the life experience yet. So yes, it is part of life to grow up, make mistakes. That's just what we do. But there is something to be said about patience and just observing and taking your time to make decisions. Don't always feel like you have to make the decision right now. Because more often than not, those type of decisions, if you're lucky, will just get you into a little bit of trouble that you'll be able to manage and you'll move on. If you're unlucky, it'll get you into some serious trouble that will take even longer now to get out of, and might set you back in other ways that you really don't want to be set back in. So I think if I was going to write a letter to the world, it would be about patience and how it's a virtue and how we need a lot more of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't just patience, then it would also be understanding and taking the time to really look into things. Quick judgments, again, comes to patience. But I feel like we're in that space right now where we have the internet and we've had it for so long that we have eyes on the entire planet. We have eyes on the entire world's cultures, ideas, everything. So if there was a moment in time that where understanding would be so much easier to accomplish, would be now. And I feel like it's very important. I feel it's very important because we've already seen a lot of lines broken between cultures, between languages and things like that. And we're all human. We're all the same. We all want the same things. We all want to be heard. We all have beliefs and ways we want to proceed in life. So having patience with other people, having patience with yourself.
That's a fact.
So yeah, I think that's something I am now inspired to write a song about.
Hey, patience, man.
Which is funny because the album I've been listening to on repeat right now is Distant Relatives.
Okay,
Nas and Demi Marley, and Patience is the one that got me into it. So yeah,
that's why you kept repeating Patience. I'm like,
yeah, that's one hell of an album.
It's important. Yeah, I mean, you hit it right there. I mean, just think of the decisions we make, whether it's financial, whether it's relationships, whichever decision we make. Sometimes we have to look back, and it goes back to what you said. Look back and observe, become an observer. And by being an observer and being patient, then it's a secret sauce for any kind of success.
Absolutely. I mean, rushing things is I would say, if you want to be in that adrenaline rush and making the quick decisions, go take up boxing.
Right.
I mean, if you want to make some quick decisions, boxing's where it's at.
Okay.
That's where you can hone in on your quick decision making, because you feel the effects of those decisions right away.
Right.
You dodge the wrong way, you're out.
You wake up like, oh damn, I thought we were in the second round. No, I got knocked out. All right. So the last few words, if you had last few questions I'd like to ask you. If you had a chance to sit down with your 16-year-old self today and have a debate or even understand the person's mentality, what would you want to really teach that person at that moment?
Figure yourself out. Figure yourself out. Take the time to really be aware of your decisions, how they affect people, how they affect you. Because as a teenager, you make a lot of quick snap decisions without really thinking about the consequences. And I think one of the failings of the education system is not allowing us to figure ourselves out in a way that will help us have a clearer path. And that's one thing I lacked, and I would put the onus on myself of having a clear path. I really enjoyed making music, but I never considered it as something to do seriously. Even though my family has lots of artists, musicians, painters. There's one of my uncles, he was an actor.
Okay.
So even with that in my life, I always considered it just something as a hobby, as something to do for fun, which it was. But I never considered it seriously for myself. One, because I didn't take the time to really observe what I was doing, like outside of myself, and always second guess myself, always told myself that, like, yeah, this is really cool, I think, but everyone else will probably, like, it's probably crap. Like, I'm not going to show anyone. And I just kept going on. And I was always, introverted and always just keeping it to myself. And when I started showing it to people, just for one, out of curiosity of how does this sound? How is the mix? Like, I want to see is my voice, like, just like details, and they'd hear it. Like, you made this? Like, yeah. So I wasn't sure if they were telling the truth. I think I was like, well, you're just trying to big me up and like swell my head and they're gonna shoot me down after. But if I had taken the time to really get to know myself, how I react to things, like knowing my viewpoint in the world, where I
core
sat in the world,
values.
my core values, everything, just analyzed everything about myself, I believe I would have had a better chance at finding my path that fit with me better than just, what do you think I should do? Well, there's these options financially, and this will set you up for the future and this and that. Okay, yeah, there's a base core set of options, I guess everyone tries to put people in.
Right.
And this comes down to the whole, wife, 3 kids, white picket fence type of deal. It's like, cool. It's not for everyone, but so is making your mark in the world. There's different ways to do it, and I think the only way people can find what they truly have a calling to is once they know who they are. It's much easier once you know who you are. Not just as like, I'm a pessimistic person, so
Right.
I don't know, maybe I should, or I'm good at debating. Cool, go be a lawyer or whatever it is.
Right.
But just knowing that you're good at debating, opens up a range of options for you. Knowing that about yourself. So I think I would tell my 16-year-old self, take the time to go sort yourself out. Just go experience life, but be aware of your decisions and knock off the list the things you don't want to carry into adult life, habits, something like that, and craft habits that'll propel you in the direction you want to go in. I think that would have been a huge help.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something, I'm telling you. I mean, could you tell us also one thing that you would want to leave behind, whether it's your children watching this at this very moment, one thing that you'd like to leave as a legacy?
It's funny because I recently watched a podcast and they were talking about, and they also mentioned this in the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F.
Right. You could say not giving a fuck.
Okay, not giving a fuck. How humans, the only reason we do anything is for a legacy. No matter what we do, we're leaving a legacy behind. Whether it's you want to waste your life away, okay, well, your legacy is you were a drunk.
Right.
You were whatever. But that's your legacy. The ones who somewhat take control of that, whatever it may be, whatever you do is leaving a trail. So you decide what kind of trail you want to leave behind. And the only way you can leave a trail behind is by experiencing life and then, making your decisions along the way. So if you take hold of those decision makings, then the legacy you leave behind is something you can be proud of. Because you put the effort and the work in, you made the sacrifices to get where you wanted to go. So that legacy is just that much more fulfilling. So the legacy I would want to leave behind, if it wasn't with music, if it wasn't with writing, say a book or anything, it would probably be the lessons I taught to my kids and hope that they understand that whatever I went through, they don't have to necessarily go through in terms of the silly mistakes I made and the weaving path that I took. I would want my legacy to at least impact my kids. If it impacts other people in the world, that's awesome.
Right.
I mean, I would love that. But the legacy I would leave behind is probably going to be with my kids, inside their heart and soul, and what they knew me as a person as they grew up, and the decisions I made, and it was all for them. So that's the legacy I want to leave behind. If I never did anything with music, if I never wrote a book or did anything artistically that was of impact to the world, at least I know that the decisions I made, regardless of the impact in those industries, my kids saw that at the very least pursued my dreams. And I would at least want them to pursue their dreams, whatever it is. Because if you don't pursue what you gravitate towards, what you feel joy for, what brings you fulfillment, then it's like, what are you doing? Like, honestly.
Deep. Hey, thank you, CB Mac, man. You shared you shared more than a book. You shared a documentary right here, man. It's something. I mean, I hope people are just taking notes or learning from you, from your experience, and you know what you're currently doing. Sometimes you never know how it's going to impact another person's life and how the person may perceive your work. And what I see in you is just beyond what you could imagine. It's just greatness, really. Like, you just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, that's why I hope everyone just strive for greatness. Whatever it is you want to do, strive to be great in that area of your expertise. It benefits you, it benefits everyone around you. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, then it ripples out. And it inspires others to do the same thing. And that's how, in effect, you sort yourself out. You can help sort the world out because other people will be inspired to sort themselves out.
That's it.
And it just,
Pleasure having you, man.
Thank you very much,
Keep
man.
doing
This is
your
awesome.
thing. Absolutely.
I'll do this again.
Another episode of Elevate the Mic, where we elevate the mindsets and skill sets of individuals who are part of the hip hop community. Love.